The C-SPAN networks bring you long-form public affairs programming from the nation's capital and are a public service of your television provider. C-SPAN, created by cable.
Mr. Mnuchin, we would take your statement at this point.
Thank you very much. Chairman Hatch, Ranking Member Wyden, and members of the committee, it is an honor to appear before you today. I am grateful and humbled by President-elect Trump nominating me to serve as Secretary of the Treasury. It is truly an honor and a privilege to be considered for this position. Thank you to all the members I have already had an opportunity to meet with during this process. I enjoyed meeting with you and learning more about the issues that are important to you. For those few members that I didn't get a chance to meet with, if confirmed, I look forward to meeting with you as well. I would like to thank Chairman Hatch and his staff for taking so much time to work with me and support me through this process. In addition, I would like to introduce my fiancée, Louise Linton, and my children, Emma, JP, and Dylan, who are here with me today, and thank them for their unwavering support. I would also like to introduce my brother, Alan Mnuchin, and his wife, Alessandra, and my father, Robert Mnuchin, who has always supported me and taught me that hard work, determination, and the ability to bring people together can make anything possible. I would like to acknowledge my late mother, Elaine Turner Cooper, who was an inspiration to me. I would also like to acknowledge my grandparents, Emmanuel and Matilda Turner, who were also a tremendous influence in my life. My grandfather was a first-generation American whose father emigrated from Europe. He truly embodied the American dream. He started out blowing glass bottles by hand and later built Midland Glass into one of the largest glass manufacturing companies in the United States, with 5 factories employing thousands of workers. My first job ever was in his factory when I was in high school. It was there that I first learned the importance of humility, hard work, and commitment. For those of you who don't know my background, I studied economics at Yale University. At the age of 22, after graduating from Yale, I got a job at Goldman Sachs, where I spent the next 17 years. I started on a folding chair in the mortgage department. 9 years later, after many sleepless nights, I was put in charge of mortgages, U.S. government bonds, municipal securities. Several years after that, I worked directly for future Secretary of the Treasury, Hank Paulson, as the firm's Chief Information Officer. In that role, I oversaw 5,000 people and a $1 billion budget. While at Goldman Sachs, I learned the importance of the financial markets in providing liquidity and capital to business, governments, and consumers. A few years later, I decided to leave Goldman Sachs to build an investment business. After working briefly at ESL Investments, I started my own investment business, Dune Capital Management. Throughout my career, my commitment was to my clients and shareholders, for whom I worked tirelessly to get the best results. 30 years later, my commitment is now to the American people, for whom I will work tirelessly by helping to grow our economy and create jobs. I'm eager to share with you why I believe I will serve well as America's next Secretary of the Treasury. But first, I want to correct the record about my involvement with IndyMac Bank. Since I was first nominated to serve as Treasury Secretary, I have been maligned as taking advantage of others' hardship in order to earn a buck. Nothing could be further than the truth. During the summer of 2008, I saw the devastation that was caused by the housing crisis when I watched people line up to get their life savings out of IndyMac Bank. It was the middle of the financial crisis, and despite the global panic, I saw a way to save the bank. I applied for a banking charter and submitted a bid to the FDIC for IndyMac. On December 31st, just before midnight, we signed a binding agreement with the FDIC. They later confirmed that our bid was almost $1 billion higher than the next best bid. We were willing to invest $1.6 billion into the most costly bank failure ever to the FDIC deposit fund. We did this because we believed in our ability to rebuild and create a successful regional bank. We believed in the recovery for the American economy. Let me be clear. My group had nothing to do with the creation of the risky loans in the IndyMac loan portfolios. When we bought the bank, we assumed these bad loans, which had been originated by previous management. Some of those individuals had to answer to federal authorities for their bad lending decisions. We invested $1.6 billion into a failing financial institution when most investors were running for the hills. We renamed the business One West Bank and saved thousands of jobs. We developed a prospering community banking franchise in Southern California as most banks were pulling back. Over the next 2 years, we bought 2 more struggling banks from the FDIC, First Fed of Santa Monica and La Jolla Bank, both through competitive bidding. Combined, we had almost 70 branches and built a robust lending business, especially for small and medium-sized businesses. As chairman of the bank, I met with hundreds of business people from all walks of life who were seeking loans to grow their business and prosper. Like many banks at the time, IndyMac and its reverse mortgage division, Financial Freedom, was unstable due to a large amount of distressed credit mortgages in its portfolios. We bought IndyMac. These legacy loans were included in the purchase. The responsibility landed on me to clean up the mess others made, but we inherited. We worked very hard to help homeowners remain in their homes through modifications wherever possible. Ultimately, One West extended over 100,000 loan modifications to delinquent borrowers to try to help them out of a bad situation. I am proud of the fact that loan modifications started at IndyMac under the leadership of the FDIC. However, the FDIC loan modification program did not work for everyone. When the FDIC took over IndyMac, they estimated that more than half the foreclosures would not meet their test for a loan modification, and they demanded many policy conditions. Extend assistance to sympathetic borrowers by establishing affordable and sustainable payments by borrowers, increase the net present value of cash flows to the owner of the loan, and stabilize housing markets. My group had to adhere to servicing agreements that limited our ability to make loan modifications that could have helped more borrowers. In the press, it has been said that I ran a foreclosure machine. This is not an accurate description of my role at One West Bank. On the contrary, I was committed to loan modifications intended to stop foreclosures. I ran a loan modification machine. When we could do loan modifications, we did them. But many times, the FDIC, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and bank trustees imposed strict rules governing the process of these loans. I am proud to be able to say that our bank was able to do over 100,000 loan modifications that allowed people the opportunity to stay in their homes. Unfortunately, not all the homes were able to be saved through these programs, and despite my best efforts, some were sadly subject to foreclosure. So sincere was my concern over this that in 2010, I instructed my lawyers to sue HSBC as trustee of the securitized loans to allow us to do loan modifications on loans in mortgage trusts that they oversaw. We won on summary judgment and were consequently allowed to do more loan modifications and keep more Americans in their homes. Similarly, in 2015, when HUD issued Mortgagee Letter 2015-11, I wrote HUD and asked them to change the policy so we didn't have to foreclose on senior citizens that were behind small amounts of money on taxes and insurance. I was so troubled by this that I discussed it with our primary regulator, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. Unfortunately, HUD did not agree, and we were forced to foreclose on senior citizens even if they only owed $1. Not complying with these HUD policies would have subjected the bank to penalties and losses from HUD. Despite our inability to save every home from foreclosure, I am proud of the fact that One West Bank was the only one of 14 banks that was able to complete the independent foreclosure review that was conducted by the OCC. Every one of the 175,000 borrowers that were in the foreclosure process during 2009 and 2010 were able to have an independent review of their loan. We had a very low error rate, and independent government reviews routinely showed that we had the most effective loan modifications of any bank. If we had not bought IndyMac Bank, the bank would likely have been broken up and sold in pieces to private investors, where the outcome for consumers could have been much more bleak. Overall, I helped many homeowners stay in their homes and escape financial ruin through my management of One West Bank. My experience confirmed that we must identify and eliminate unwise and burdensome policies which contributed to the disastrous outcomes that came in the wake of the financial collapse. Many Americans are still suffering from the disastrous ripple effects the 2008 crisis had on our nation. Faithfully ensuring this does not happen again means supporting careful oversight of a financial system which prioritizes the needs of everyday Americans over the wishes of financial institutions or the federal government. I felt great empathy for the millions of hardworking American families who lost their homes because the system failed them. If confirmed as Treasury Secretary, I will work diligently and compassionately for the American people so that we never see anything like the meltdown of 2008 ever again. I was deeply honored when Donald Trump asked me to join his campaign as finance chairman. I had the opportunity to travel with him and hear firsthand from hardworking Americans about their concerns for the American economy. Over the last year, I visited over 50 cities in 26 states. I remember attending my first rally with him in Indianapolis. It was an unforgettable experience. As we arrived into the stadium packed with 20,000 people, I saw the excitement that people had for a Trump presidency. On our trip to Flint, Michigan, I went with the president-elect to visit the water treatment facilities and saw firsthand the crumbling pipes and the devastation caused by that lead-tainted water. We met with water engineers and saw the impact it had on that community and the families that live there. Across the country on my travels with the president-elect, we heard the pained and heartbreaking stories of Americans who had lost their jobs to workers in foreign countries. We heard the concerns of people in small business burdened by high taxes just trying to make ends meet. In my meetings with you over the last month, you've shared the concerns of your constituents, like farmers who worry about the death tax wiping out the family farms, or workers who are nervous about whether their retirement accounts will be safe from ruin. One of the greatest reasons I was drawn to President-elect Trump's campaign was it was predicated on a commitment to stimulating prosperity for Americans of all backgrounds, whether they lived in the inner city of Detroit, rural North Carolina, the coal country of Ohio, or West Virginia, or any place in between. I share the President-elect's goal of economically empowering every citizen. We will not rest in our mission until that is a reality. Among President-elect's signature issues in this campaign was reviving trade policies that put the American worker first. I will enforce trade policies that keep our currency strong on the world exchanges and create and protect American jobs. We will also make America the best place for companies to do business. Sensible regulation is a necessity for healthy markets. However, I saw firsthand how regulatory excess can inhibit lending by financial institutions, resulting in a lack of access to capital for small businesses and entrepreneurs. Alexander Hamilton remarked that wealth of a nation may be promoted by, quote, multiplying the objects of enterprise. Hamilton knew the unique value of entrepreneurial activity to a thriving economy. From our nation's earliest days, American business have been the greatest repository of ingenuity and entrepreneurial spirit in the world. We need to unleash that power to generate jobs and create abundance for Americans of all backgrounds. We will work diligently to limit regulations, lower taxes on hardworking Americans and small business, and get the engine of economic growth firing on all cylinders again. In this age of unprecedented online attacks, we must also be vigilant about cybersecurity. If confirmed as Secretary of the Treasury, I will use my expertise in technology to protect Americans' information at the IRS and keep our financial architecture safe from malicious attacks. I will use the Treasury Department's Office of Terrorism and Financial Intelligence to stop the financing of terrorism. I will partner with other government agencies in our shared goal of allowing our financial markets to operate free from digital and physical threats. If I am confirmed as Treasury Secretary, I promise I will work hard with this committee, all members of Congress, and the administration to put forth policies that will help American families reach and maintain prosperity. We will make America great again. Thank you, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mnuchin.